Hello and welcome back to my channel. I'm Jesse and I cracked my head open playing tug-of-war with my babysitter when I was a kid, which probably explains a lot. Am I gonna start introducing my videos with random facts about me? Is that a thing? I don't even know why I started the video that way. Today we're getting weird, as if that's a new concept on this channel. I think we're pretty consistent with the weirdness. My posting schedule might be out of whack, my reading schedule might be all over the place, my sleep schedule is absurd, but if there's one thing I can keep being consistent with, it's being weird. That one Riverdale meme just popped into my head. Today I am kicking off I never know what to call these videos. Did I just try to dab? I did. A reading experiment. I don't know what the reading experiment is per se, but it's a reading experiment video. I went over on my Instagram, at jessethereader if you want to follow me, asked you guys to submit the weirdest books you've ever read. I picked a few of the books out, and I'll be reading them over the next week or so. I love strange books. I think it's really fun to just see a book kind of evolve into this like very bizarre place, and seeing how that layer of weirdness affects the characters and the plot. I'm here for the weird. It just makes for such a fun reading experiments. I meant to say experience, and I combined experiment and yeah. It just makes for such a fun reading experience, and I'm excited to read some of your weird recommendations. Normally for these types of videos, I only pick out 3 books to read because 1, I'm a slow reader, and 2, more than 3 books makes for a super long video, and I like to keep things kind of concise. But I ended up picking out 4 because a lot of the recommendations were rather short books, and I know I'll probably get through them pretty quickly. The first of the 4 that I'm going to be reading, I don't even know which one I want to read actually. Let me assess really fast. I think this one's calling my name. Paradise Rot. Now, I'm going to be vague in explaining what these books are about because I don't want to know too much going in because sometimes that can ruin the strangeness. Sometimes these descriptions be doing too much. This is about a girl who moves from Norway to the UK to study, and she ends up moving into this house with this girl, and I think the house begins to feel like a living being. We're putting our foot on the brake now. That's all I know. That's all I want to know. And not digging in much deeper because I don't want to spoil what the book is all about. I'm super excited for this because I feel like it's been a minute since I've read a really weird book. Let's get started. Time for reading. This was not at all what I expected it to be. Paradise Rot, more like go piss girl. Describe your piss girl. I don't need to know all the deets about your piss girl. We'll get back to the piss in a minute. I don't want to reduce this book to it being only about piss, but there was lots of piss. I was a little off on my description, I believe. I feel like I described this book as like the house becoming alive, and I do feel like the house was kind of a character within this book. But essentially we have this Norwegian girl who is studying abroad, and she ends up becoming roomies with this girl at an old brewery that's been turned into an apartment. The space is very open, and it's hard to have any kind of privacy. You see and hear every little thing. It's weird, but it's a good weird, in my opinion. A strange weird that worked. It's definitely one of those books where like you need to pay attention to every little detail because there is so much symbolism throughout this book that you don't even pick up on until later on in the book. You're like connecting all these dots. As you move forward, you're like, oh, this symbolizes that. This symbolizes this. The symbolism is popping off in this book. Pop, pop, pop. I feel like the thing that I picked up on the most is this exploration of identity and sexuality and being comfortable within your own body. There's a lot of questioning that the main character is doing, and there's so many interactions and moments where she's stepping back and being like, what do I want? Tell me what I want, what I really, really want. We see our main character start to unravel her sexuality, and it's fascinating seeing her kind of break down all these layers. And the descriptions of her doing this are unique in and of itself. It's all coded in this very peculiar way. There's also a lot to be said about our main character's experience of being a foreign exchange student. Some of the interactions she has, I get that people mean well. It comes off as super rude and super condescending. Your English is great, by the way, she said and smiled. Oh, I said, we all grow up with the BBC where I'm from. Well, I've met other Norwegians. They all had terrible American accents. She still smiled the same interested smile. Your English is so effing great, serious, and clever. Everyone's taught English at school in Norway. It's not like a huge part of the book, it's very subtle, but it's something that I just kept picking up on. It's like another element to our main character who is dealing with so many other things. She's dealing with school, she's living at this moldy brewery, she's figuring out her sexuality, she's far from home, and on top of that, she's dealing with all these like weird interactions. It's a book that really transports you because of how detailed it is and how deep it goes into all the imagery. Even further than just like painting up an image, like it describes the smell of the atmosphere. Sometimes I wish it wouldn't have because it stinks, it reeks. Like some of the deets, dirty. The smell of the old smoky carpet mingled with the coffee. Delicious. In the bathroom, the walls were soft and damp. Dark mold spotted the corners. Yummy! The brewery stank of cigarette smoke, whiskey breath, and last night's sweat. My favorite smell. I love the descriptions within this book. Were they stinky? Did they reek? Was it musty? Yes, all of the above. But I love the descriptions because it just put you in the situation. So good! There was also a way in which the author added little details to things that just made these mundane objects just have so much personality added to them. If you like, you can borrow our newspaper, she said, and handed me the classified section, dappled with coffee stains and crossings out. The writing style just really won me over. And the piss. We gotta talk about the piss. I would have been fine if the pee had been described like a few times, but it was like so many times. Too many times. I'm not fully sure what it added to everything. I'm sure there's some symbolism with the pee, but I didn't dig that deep into the pee. It was not that interesting to me. Urine streamed against the porcelain bowl. In the darkness, I thought it sounded a little thick, as if warm milk was trickling out of her. Hello? I turned around, sat down on the toilet seat, and looked down between my legs where a thin stream of urine trickled into the bowl. I am such a child! Laughing at these. I'm sorry. From my bed I could hear her pee at night, a faint, muted trickling against the toilet bowl, which made me imagine, half asleep, thin, flowing golden ribbons. When I went into the bathroom, it smelled faintly of urine, and the liquid in the toilet bowl was the color of melted butter. That is literally only touching the surface of the examples I have. If you've read this book, you know how full of pee it is. I'm almost thinking I need to go back and really think about the pee. Was there more symbolism there? There probably was, honestly. This book is full of symbolism. This is a book that I'm leaving honestly having a lot of respect for. I'm leaving it being glad that I've read it. I love the descriptions, I love the themes, I love the symbolism, but at the same time, just because I respect it, I don't see myself strongly recommending it to everybody in my path. It's not one that I'm strongly passionate about, but I really loved my experience reading this book. Would do it again, 10 out of 10. If you're looking for a book that will challenge you and have you thinking deeper about the things that you come across within a book, and you're okay with things being described in a gross way and having a book full of pee, then I would strongly recommend this one. It's definitely a book that will stick with me, and even now I'm still thinking about it. My mind is racing thinking about this book, and that really excites me. Next up, I'm hopping into Bunny. I had to. The bunny was right there. The jokes write themselves, and sometimes they write themselves and they don't need to be spoken aloud. This book was recommended by draw_diable. Thank you for your recommendation. In Bunny, we follow Samantha, who is studying creative writing. I believe there is this group of girls within the creative writing course, and they reference each other as Bunny. I think they're called the Bunnies. Samantha is invited to join one of their get-togethers. When Samantha arrives at the party, though, she discovers a world full of secrets when it comes to the bunnies that are dark and creepy and weird. This will be the start of Samantha falling deeper and deeper into the group of the bunnies. That's all I know about it. Let's get to it. Time for reading. I finished Bunny, and let me tell you, this ain't no tale of the Easter Bunny. Not that I expected that. Also, I'm overdue on this library book and I am anxious about it. So as soon as I film this bit, I'm yeeting myself to the library to return it and getting on my hands and knees and apologizing to every single librarian at the library. I might not go that far, but I'm definitely gonna apologize because I feel so bad. Now, let's get to it. How did I feel about Bunny? On one hand, I enjoyed it, I respect it, I see why so many people like it. On the other hand, it just wasn't for me. This feels very reminiscent of The Secret History, probably just because of the dark academia vibes, but it's kind of more on the trippy side of things, which I really liked about it. Half the time I didn't know what was going on, and I enjoyed that. I enjoyed all the questions that this book raised as I was reading it, even if the questions were things like, what the heck is going on here? I'm sorry, she said what? They did what? And it did what? It feels like you were in a dream state a majority of the time that you were reading it. There are those moments where it feels like things are very much so rooted in reality, but it's the second the bunnies come into play, or the second the bunnies come hopping in, I'll see myself out. This mirage of sorts bleeds in and takes over, and I loved that aspect. That was just the best element in this story, and I feel that's kind of what makes this book kind of weird. And I just loved being in that state of not really knowing where we were going or what was happening and trying to figure it out, because eventually things do become more clear. I feel I still left it with some questions, but at the same time I'm okay with there being questions left unanswered. It might also be a book for me personally where I have to reread it in order for things to fully click in my mind, because I'm not that big-brained of a person, so sometimes I have to reread things over and over for them to fully sink in, and that might be the case for me with this book. I thoroughly enjoyed the writing style. I know that it comes off as very pretentious, but when you think about it, our main character, Samantha, she is so pretentious. That is her style. She might not outright come out and say she's not like all the other girls, but that's the vibe she gives off. And sure, sometimes it is hard to read because of the fact that Samantha is pretentious. On another level of pretentious. I'm a jewel-colored cardigan cardigan. I'm a first edition of the bell jar. I'm a marzipan squirrel. I'm a hairdresser who knows exactly how to handle her carefully undertucked bob of golden hair. Pretentious! 100% confirmed that Samantha and I would probably not get along in real life. She'd probably spit all over my young adult book collection, and yet I still loved reading about her. Other elements of the writing just had such a big impact on me, just like the overall flow of words, all these like really interesting metaphors, which I feel like some people might not like, kind of the style of writing in general. I love how the author was able to kind of sew together this feeling of unease as the story progressed. I feel like with each page flip, I became more and more unnerved due to how the tone of story shifted into such a dark direction. I will say the thing that I was not expecting at all was just how sexual this book was. Like, bow chicka wow wow. To be fair, I had no real information on this book before going into it, so I really went in with no expectations, but I think the thing that I did love about this book was kind of the mystery behind the bunnies. They are so mysterious and so weird and so confusing, but I loved that element. Every time they stepped onto the page, they just like commanded your attention, and it was just kind of crazy to me, like, that they had that power on the page to just like immediately be like, pay attention to us. I don't know, I just like loved that aspect. Samantha's journey in general was like really fascinating to follow because she kind of has a distaste for the bunnies at the start of the book, and then as things progress, she starts to drink the bunny juice. I didn't like the way that that sounded. Bunny juice, count me out. But she starts to drink from the Kool-Aid essentially and gets more and more invested into this group of girls. I think for me, the element that is kind of like the strongest, the thing that I felt like we were exploring the most in this book was kind of this idea of like friendships, friend groups, and it also kind of dips into the pool of cults and secret society, which I feel like is a very dark academia thing, but it was kind of exploring the idea of like that evolution of like getting into a friend group and how friends can like just eventually be influencing your every move, and how sometimes that can be a good thing, but then sometimes it can be really bad. This was definitely a solid, weird recommendation, and to that I give it an A+. Was it for me? Not necessarily. I did, again, enjoy like the overall reading experience. I just like didn't love the book. Like by the end of it, I wasn't like blown away per se. Even if I leave a book not necessarily loving it, so long as like the journey of the book was fun, I have no regrets. I'd give Bunny a solid 3.5 out of 5 stars. Now I need to yeet myself to the library before the librarians show up at my door demanding this book back. The next recommendation comes from Sky, and they recommended We Need to Do Something. What is that something we need to do? This description was very vague. I have no idea what I've signed myself up for here. That kind of excites me, but also frightens me a bit. What am I about to walk into? Am I about to walk into a storm? Technically I am, because this book revolves around a tornado. What is it with me and my terrible segues lately? Like, somebody please stop me. Somebody come to my house, slap me up across the head, and knock some sense into me, please. Or knock some cringe out of me. That might be better. Though good luck with that, because I'm filled to the top with cringe. A tornado warning brings this family together in a bathroom as they are looking to take protection. The family is already on the brink of destruction internally, and they'll be put to the ultimate test as they are forced together. I'm intrigued. Let's get to it. Time for reading. I finished the book. It's upside down. I finished the book. Right side up. I'm just gonna say it. Just gonna blurt it out. Let it fall out of my mouth. A+ recommendation. This is the kind of weird I love. I need more books to swerve into this weirdness lane. It's a very dark book in terms of elements that come into play. We've got an emotionally abusive relationship, a physically abusive relationship, alcoholism, and one of the most dark elements of all was the annoying kid brother. I'm low-key joking, but this also made me question how annoying of a little brother I was to my older sister growing up. I might need to text her and apologize for my existence. Let me just give you a little taste. Hello? Hello? My sissy farted so much and it smells like broccoli and now we are all gonna die because none of us can breathe. Hello? Hello? My sissy's butt is a monster and we are trapped. Help! Please help save us from my sissy's smelly butt. Oh god, we don't have much time before her butt swallows us up and turns us into big poops. That's the kind of annoying he was throughout this book. The characters were all messed up, but were all done so well. I feel like the characterization was just fantastic in this book. Even though it is a very short book, you get to know the characters very well, even if a majority of them are terrible, like terrible people. The dad is racist, the mom is meddling in things that she shouldn't be, the daughter has done some questionable things, and the son, he's really just annoying. That's like all he's got going for him, so I guess he's not that bad. He's probably the most innocent, honestly. We have all these internal things happening within the family and affecting the family dynamics, but then you add in this external element, which is the tornado warning, the tornado itself, which, let me just say, evolves into a much more bizarre place than I had ever expected it to. And it was just dare I say fun? It's not like a happy-go-lucky, bright, fun book, but the experience of reading it and being in it and just trying to solve what the heck is going on, that bit of it, oh, it was fun. Oh, it was a good time. Good vibes all around. Trying to fully comprehend what might be coming next in this sort of falling domino effect of a plot is what made this book such a wild experience. I kept trying to put things together. I kept trying to predict what was going to happen next or what actually happened to put the family in this situation that they're currently in, but I was never able to get the right equation as to what was coming next. And each time we were hit with a new blow, I was just left flabbergasted. Like, so many things happened in this that I was like, what? No, no. It was bad. It was twisted, devastating. But I'm also just kind of in awe with how things got from A to Z in this book. Like, the way the author constructed the story, genius. I love the way things unfolded. I was into it. You just start to feel this like overwhelming sense of dread that the characters themselves are also feeling. Obsessed. I loved feeling claustrophobic and anxious and nervous the whole time reading it. I'm gonna give it a 4 out of 5 stars now. I might change that to a 5-star rating down the line. I just need to like think about it and sit with it a little bit longer. I will say the overall reading experience, I would give it a 5 out of 5 stars. Like, I had so much fun reading this book. Again, I say the word fun as a way to be like the experience of reading it was fun, like the elements within the story, not necessarily fun. In fact, if you are planning to pick up this book and read it, definitely check trigger warnings. I definitely recommend it if you are looking for a bizarre reading experience, because that's exactly what you will get with this book. Next up, I'm reading the Yellow Wallpaper, and this rec came from Kathy. Thank you, Kathy, for your rec. This reveals the journal of a woman who is forced into confinement because she is sick. She's forbidden from pretty much everything, and she spends her days staring at this god-awful yellow wallpaper. That's all I know going in. It's very short, like look how slim that book is. 37 pages in total, so I'm for sure gonna finish it today, probably in the next hour, and we'll update you with my thoughts. Thoughts. Time for reading. Short books give me so much confidence. I read this in like 25 minutes and I was like, wow, I'm the fastest reader on the planet. I'm unstoppable. This was definitely weird, but also very sad. Like, I was not expecting it to be as devastating as it was, but it was devastating. We have a woman who is struggling health-wise and she's put in isolation and she basically has no support. Like, the people around her are not really supporting her. They're like, you stay in that yellow room and you lose your mind. Throughout the book, we see her begin to obsess over this yellow wallpaper in her room. She despises it, and as things move forward, she begins to overthink it more and more. I don't want to give too much away, but she begins to see something in the wallpaper and she feels like it's her duty to unleash it. I'm not even gonna lie, I looked up an analysis on this book because it wasn't clicking for me. I was like, what's going on here? And then when people broke it down for me, I was like, that makes so much sense. So essentially, she's kind of like seeing her own journey being reflected in the wallpaper. Not only her own journey, but just also like the life of a woman and what women have to go through. I would say this other idea that comes into play is how men can be so controlling of women, because her husband is the reason why she's even in isolation. He's a physician. Why does that sound weird? Physician. Do you ever say a word and it just like doesn't sound right? It's right, it just doesn't sound right. I'm having one of those moments. Physician. Her husband is a physician and he thinks it's best that she lives in isolation. He thinks it's best if she lives her days alone until she's fully healed, which in turn ends up being the worst thing ever for her because she begins to lose her sense of reality. But because he's the man, that's where she ends up. And it just kind of drives me bonkers because like, at least let her go outside and walk the land. Like, she's not gonna get anybody sick by being outside. Hello. And then I would also say it explores the idea of like women not being supported in the way that they should be supported, because that's exactly what happens to her. Like, she has no support. I can definitely see why this was recommended as a weird book, because it does fall into that lane. But I was also more so sad and upset and angered the whole time reading it. It was not fun reading the experience of this woman whose life has been halted. For the most part, I liked it in terms of it being a short story, but it ended so abruptly. At the end, I was like, is there more here? Hello? Is my book a misprint? We're just gonna close it out like that and be okay with it? Because it just like ends so abruptly. Anyway, overall, a very quick read and a very interesting short story. It does fall into this kind of like bizarre, weird kind of place. I can't say that I loved it. Like, I think that this is one that is fun because of like trying to dissect what is happening and how it's reflecting kind of society's view of women. Like, that aspect of it I really liked. Like, I love books that make me think and have me questioning everything. That element coming into play in a book will always have me like having so much fun. But in general, I just didn't feel like super strongly about it. Like, I didn't leave it being like, wow, this book is life-changing, you know? So I would give it like a 3, probably more of a 2.5 out of 5 stars. We have reached the end of this video. Those are all the books that I read for this fun little experiment. I Really enjoyed this. I loved reading all your weird book recs, trying to figure out why you thought it was weird, and recognizing really quickly that you guys are good at giving weird book recs. And honestly, would do this video again. I might not leave this video having loved every book that I read, but I had such a fun time reading these books. I feel like it was great for my reading life. Like, it just added a bit of spice that I needed. Kind of made things strange and exciting for once. I've been reading too many normal books lately that it was nice to have some interesting things added to the mix. I definitely think that I will do this video again in the future. So if you guys want to leave me some weird book recommendations down below in the comments, I'd really appreciate that. I also want to know if you guys have read any of these books and what your thoughts are on them. If you have read any of these, be sure to let me know down below in the comments all your thoughts on them. I want to hear from you guys. If you like this video, be sure to go and hit that like button. If you want to see more bookish content from me, be sure to go and hit subscribe or go and hit that bell icon and you'll be notified every time I post new videos. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope your day is bright, that tomorrow is brighter. Keep reading what your heart desires, and I will see you soon with a new video. Bye. Stay weird, my friends. Stay weird. Stay weird. Stay weird. Okay. Bye. Whoa. Whoa. Sneeze.